Okay. Should be recording.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. And with that and said, I'm going to move off to the side and put Mom in so she can work on the block. Your turn.
My turn. Now I'm before the camera. Oh, goody, goody. I'll break it for sure. We had a question about block 2L, and I'm not sure exactly what you all wanted to know, but I went back and looked at 2L, and there are 8 sections in the center that form a wheel of sorts, and then they each one have an applique. I have already started with the unit 1, and you'll notice on unit 1, 3, 5, and 7, there is a 1A in this place right here. On units 2, 4, 6, and 8, there is 1A out here. Okay, that's all good. The next thing I did was I trimmed all of the applique pieces. I don't know if this grid on here is throwing us off or not, but anyway, I trimmed all the applique pieces out, the applique patterns, and I trimmed them and left the red line. The reason I did that was I wanted to see if this was going to be...
Get your hand out of the way.
Well, let me get this set on here first, and then I'll get my hand out. Okay, I matched up the outside edges. And by the way, you cut the pattern out on all the lines, dashed and the colored line. And in this case, I left the colored line because I wasn't sure exactly how this was going to turn out. The next thing to consider is this piece is going to come together with this one. And the black lines, when it's all said and done, need to be continuous around the circle. So to do that...
Okay, let me back up one little thing. I think one thing that clears it up for me is that on this one, when you started, the 1A pieces in the center on part of the block on pieces, and the 1A is on the outside of the other 4. That means that this is the background, it's the first one that goes down. The other piece here and this one out here are the applique pieces. So you've got part of them in here that's the background, and then you applique out here. The other one is you're going to background here and applique in here. So you're going to have 2 different size applique pieces, 2 different shapes, and they're going to go on in 2 different steps. Okay.
Sounds good. Okay.
Hi, Jenny.
After I glued this piece to here, then I stitched this line.
Which line? The red one?
The red line.
That's your placement line.
That's the placement line. But I want, when I get this applique pattern ready, it needs to match up the dashed lines and this line here. Well, when you match that up, you need to make this work right and not have any overlaps at the points. You need to be able to see the black line on here when you lay the applique pattern piece on top. And the reason you need to see it is because when you wrap the fabric around the edge for the applique, the turn under, you're going to gain a little bit of size right here, and you want the fold of the fabric to be on that line. It's kind of critical in some of the blocks, not all of them, but in this one, it's important to get that right. So that having said that, I took all my applique pieces and I learned that I didn't need the colored line on the applique pattern. So I went back and trimmed it off.
Oh yeah, that's the trash she wouldn't let me throw
away. And that's the trash. That's what I took off. So you see it's very small, but it'll make a difference in how the pieces line up when you start putting them together. Now,
okay. So basically what you're saying is that you're going to
I'm going to make this a little smaller.
You're cutting the applique pieces out on the, leaving the colored line on the applique piece until you
pattern piece.
On the applique pattern piece until you figure out whether you need it on there, because you want to have your turn of cloth to on both pieces because they have to match. Your turn of cloth has to come together.
The turn of cloth has to come together. Okay, right here. I don't know if it's going to glare on you or not.
Let me get this changed.
But see, that point, that doesn't overlap. That one doesn't overlap. That one, well, I didn't get it just exactly right. That one doesn't overlap. This one doesn't overlap. That one doesn't. I missed it on this and this, and I should have been more careful when I pieced that block. But that's what we're looking for, is where the applique pieces don't overlap, because all you're doing is appliquing on this.
So basically your red line, sometimes you need it, sometimes you don't, depending
Correct.
on whether you're for your turn of cloth.
Correct.
So if you lay your pattern, your applique pattern on and you don't need it, then trim it off. So, yeah. But leave it on to start with.
Leave it on to start with until you've checked, because it'll make a difference in the finished product. Okay, I have already sewed the applique placement lines on here. And
you sewed them on all the pieces?
Well, I'm going to. I sewed them around here. I haven't.
You sewed all the red.
I sewed all the red applique lines.
No matter whether it's all the units, no matter whether the piece is out here or it's in here. The red. Okay.
Now the next thing is, this is the applique. This is the piece that's going to be the center of the quilt, going to be the center of the block. What's behind here, you don't need. But if you turn it over, okay, we've got lines. Which part do we get rid of? This will be behind an applique. This will be behind an applique. So mark it if you need to, but be really.
Did you see this now? Your hand's getting in the way.
I marked an X because I want to get rid of that. I'm going to trim and leave a line.
Okay, she used just a pen.
I used a friction pen.
And marked an X on the part that is going to be behind the applique.
And on this one?
And on this one here, this is the piece that we're going to keep. This is behind the applique. And that's what she marked with the X. That way you get rid of the right piece.
So I want to trim away from the fabric, or trim away the fabric, the piece that has the X. Oops. Now, that one's ready for the applique. On this one, trim away the piece that has the X. Okay, now those two are ready for the applique.
So you may have already covered this.
I'll continue on until I have them all. This one was the applique. This one will have the applique here. Get rid of that. So I don't have these sewed yet, so they're not going to have anything going with them.
But anyway, you want to mark what the piece that you want to cut away, and they're different on them. So you want to be very careful you get the right piece cut away, or you'll be recutting your background and sewing another piece on and doing it again. So that's just a little tip and we've done this before.
Ask me how I know.
Yeah. So
wasn't a pretty picture that day, folks.
Anyway, that's how you're going to start. Okay, now
I'm going to
any questions at this point? I can't hear you, Jenny. I'm not hearing people. I don't know whether it's me. My microphone is on and everybody can hear me, but I can't hear somebody else. I'm using the chat. I'm watching the chat. Do you have a good fix for this, or just old brain, new technology, wires are not connected? I don't know.
How much?
Oops.
Ones do you leave?
I don't know. Anyway, I can be heard, but I'm not hearing anybody else. Okay. How much seam allowance do you leave once it's cut?
I leave close to 1/4 of an inch.
the seam allowance. I got a thought. The
What?
seam allowance that you're cutting, is it away from the placement line that you've sewn or from the line, the applique line that you're going to sew? You see what I'm saying?
Lift that keyboard so I can turn this thing on.
Oh, sorry.
I don't know if you can see this, but there's the seam line. Well, it's talking to us.
Well, I'm trying to do something different here.
Okay, so I've got about 3/16 of an inch seam allowance left on this here.
Okay, so just a little less than a quarter.
A little less than a quarter.
Okay.
It could have been big. I could have cut it bigger. It's not going to make a lot of difference when you're appliquing a color over the background fabric. But if you have to applicate white or the background fabric over color, then what's colored will show through.
Okay. Will somebody say something? Because I changed something here. I heard something.
Can you hear me?
I can now. Yes.
Yay!
Hey, I don't know what it was I did, but it's like, okay, let's try that button.
Make a note and find it.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yay! Success!
I probably have different speakers and I didn't have the right one selected. So I just go in and say, okay, it wasn't that one, so take the next one. And if it's not that one, take the next one. It's like, okay, eventually I get one. Anyway, okay, we're fixed now. At least
old dogs are having trouble learning new tricks.
Oh, well, it's fun. Anyway, okay.
Okay, now got this thing on where I'm. Oh, let me get over here where they can see. Okay, now I have glued the applique piece that goes on this one. Yeah, right
You
there.
glued it down. Okay.
I glued it down. Not much glue, but some glue. And I, with my scissors, I just trimmed it out by eye, about a quarter of an inch away. Now we got a curve, and we all know what that means. You got to clip the thing so it'll turn smoothly.
So is that like a strict about a quarter of an inch, or is that a 3/16 of an inch kind of quarter of an inch?
This here?
The part you said that you clipped it away.
Oh, I eyeballed it. It's
approximately?
about a quarter of an inch.
About a quarter. So like roughly, but it doesn't matter, or it doesn't have to be extremely precise.
Not real
Quarter of
picky.
an
It
inch all
doesn't
the way
have to be real picky. I cut it by eye. If you're not sure, you can get it fairly even. Mark it with a friction pen. Just make little dots along there and follow the dots. You don't want to cut it this close. You
Okay.
don't want it to be like that. That's not enough seam allowance. 3/16 to a quarter is good.
Okay.
Okay.
Can you tilt your hand a little bit more towards the camera and point where it shouldn't be? Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
And then point where it should not be.
You don't want to get it here. You don't want to get it like.
No, you don't want to get
really,
it
really, really close. You want to stay far enough
Gotcha.
away.
Yeah. This, where my pointer is, would be too close.
Okay.
Out here is good. If it's a straight piece, it doesn't make a whole lot of difference. If it's a colored piece, if you're appliquing the background on a color, yeah, it makes a difference. You want your background to be a little wider so that the color won't bleed through.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Now, to turn this critter.
I actually have one more question. Just keep in mind, I've not done applique, so it's brand new for me. Because I've been sick for the past few months and I haven't been able to do it with you guys. So when you clip around that curve, how do you know you've clipped it enough?
You want to clip to within about 2 threads of the edge of the foundation. Don't clip to it.
Don't clip to it and don't clip through it. Leave a couple of threads away.
Okay, but how do I know that I've put enough clips around the curve?
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
A tight.
Like, is there a formula for that, or
no? There's not a formula, but the shallower the curve, the farther apart you can make the clips. And if you make them together, close together like that,
you're making them tiny.
Fine.
And let's say that we're going to do this and we're going to push it around here. We're going to look at this edge. if this edge here has got little bumps
let me
in
press
it.
that so it'll stay.
Go ahead and press it. Yeah, it did feel a little wet.
Oh, you mean like if it looks like it's like an octagon or that kind of thing,
it's
then you haven't clipped it enough.
Right. If it's got little bumps, that means that you've not put enough clips in it. And it's making almost little pleats. See how smooth that is?
Yeah.
Okay. If you don't clip it enough, you'll have little bumps.
You'll have little straight pieces or little.
Oh, so like on the inside, it wouldn't be little bumps. It would be like little almost dents,
right?
Or little straight pieces. But on the outside, it would look like little bumps.
Right. So then you just go back and put some more
clips in. If you got little straight area, it could be 1/4 of an inch long. This straight area might be. If it's straight, go back in and clip in between the clips that you already made, and that will make it spread more. You probably need to press that back out again and then refold.
Okay.
Reclip and then press it over the edge again. And this fold that's here is going to fit. It is if I put it on the right side. Okay, and we're going to fold back the fabric, match up the cut edges or the dashed line.
And so why do you use those clips instead of pins?
Pins distort the fabric a lot. Because you go in and you come back out again. Now, look.
Oh, so it like smooshes them.
Yeah. The pin goes in and it makes bumps.
Or if you clip this, if you put a clip on it, it will. Now then, I'm going to turn this over and show you what I mean. Stiletto, now, if you look really close, you run the stiletto along here.
Well, hang on. Let me get her down here. Okay.
I'm going to run the stiletto along this line.
That's the black line?
The black line. And the edge of the folded fabric on the other side, I can tell, is right on that black line because I'm running that stiletto around there and it's following. It's not moving out. And it can't go this way because there's a tiny little ridge there.
Okay.
And I'm trying to stay far enough away so you can see. But that's where you want the applique piece to be. And if you do the same thing on the corresponding piece, which will be this one, get it on the right side. Now I'm going to let this go so you can see. If you put this here, when it's sewn, this black line should match that black line after you get these two pieces sewed together.
Okay.
You're confused.
I don't think I'm confused. I'm just focused really hard.
Okay.
Okay.
Does everybody understand what we're trying to say?
I do.
Okay.
It's not, I tried writing this out and I think it would take 5 pages for me to write out in detail everything that I did. So that's why we're trying to do it this way. Now I'm going to go one more.
So I will say on camera, they both look like black lines.
They both look like what?
They both look like black lines.
Well, the one looks like a black line because I already sewed through it. It was red. It is red.
Oh, so the one that's been sewn through, I'm looking at thread instead of looking at print.
Yeah.
You are, yes.
Okay, so that one is supposed to be red.
That one is red. And
sew on the red line. Okay.
Sewing, right. The red line is your placement line.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay.
I was a couple minutes late. I'm sure you guys covered that already.
Sorry. That's okay. We need to make sure that we cover everything for everybody.
Okay, now I'm going to do the next applique.
Pardon, Jenny?
I said there was coffee to be prepared. I'd prioritize.
Yeah.
Okay, so now I've done.
This was the applique that is on the outside part. Now she's going to prepare the applique that goes on the inside.
inside.
That's the other half of this piece. So she's going to prepare the applique for in here now.
Oh, so it's an outside curve, but it goes on the inside of
we got
an inside.
We got an outside curve and we've got an inside curve, and when they're put together,
you swapped those.
This
an outside curve means that the piece of your applique is on the outer edge of it, like it bumps out.
Okay, depend on how what your terminology is and what makes sense to you. But this one has an applique on the outside. This one has an applique on the inside. And when these two triangles are sewn together, this curve right here has to match this curve right here, and they have to look like one continuous curve.
Okay.
Okay. All right, go ahead with that now, Mom.
I glued my pattern piece for the next applique.
Okay. You worked on bucket 2B. We'll keep going on.
Okay. The only place I'm going to trim the fabric away is where the colored line, that colored line side of it. And I'm going to guesstimate it, and here we go.
And let me have this a minute. The reason for only trimming along this edge is that this is sewn into the seam line here. So we're going to trim that when we sew these seams. So the only thing we're caring about right now is this applique edge. So that's the reason we're only trimming this one edge here.
Okay, now again, we've got a curve. So I'm going to clip. And my clips are a little less than 1/4 of an inch apart, and I don't know how good this is showing up here.
Well, I'm having a hard time keeping up with you, but that's okay.
I'm used to doing this right in front of my face, so this is a challenge, folks. Okay, dampen. Not a whole lot. And my pen seems to be working really good today. So then I'm going to fold this over. Don't worry about this. It's going to do what it's going to do.
The excess on the outside that you did not trim, just kind of leave it
hanging out for a while.
So if I don't have one of those super fancy pants dampening pens, can I just use like a little paintbrush and dip it in some water?
Yes, you can.
Take a Q-tip and dash it and dip it in water.
A Q-tip. So why a Q-tip versus a paintbrush?
Depends on what kind of paintbrush you use.
I use, when I put the water on here, the pen that I use has a hard tip.
Oh, okay. So you want something with a harder tip than a paintbrush.
Yeah.
That makes sense, because a paintbrush would usually leave more moisture behind. That's what
right. You can control the edges, control the amount of moisture coming on much better with a harder tip.
Okay.
Okay. That's been pressed. I pressed it over here. Now you see the clips, they overlapped each other.
Let's hold it up here.
Oh, yeah.
See how they're overlapping?
Mm-hmm.
This one, they spread apart.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So these have to overlap, and you don't trim that out. But again, you look at the front side of it, and if it's a smooth curve over there, then you go ahead and it's good. If it's not, press it back out, put more clips in it, and then repress it over the foundation edge. So you get a really smooth curve.
Okay, there's one place right here. Notice this here is this way, and this one is really not square.
I'm not sure if we can see that on the camera.
Well,
you might have to hold it up to the camera and point at it.
Okay. What I did was I moved that little clip.
There was
a little over.
There's a clip.
Oh, that's good.
There's a clip.
Yeah.
Right. One of these. Let me have your stiletto thing. Did you get?
Yeah. My crooked stiletto.
Well, that's all right. I'm using it right-handed, so we could have interesting things here. This point was off.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and so I was making a little bump.
It made it right.
It made a little peak
she
right
took
there.
it laid down. She took this down and moved this to where she wanted it and repressed. That's all that had to be done to make this a smooth curve, was to move this one piece over into the spot, into place where it should have been. So she didn't have to reclip, just reposition and repress.
Oh,
Okay.
Now,
if you get the pattern too wet when you're dabbing, then it's harder to get that smooth because of your paper folds too.
If you get the pattern piece wet really wet along the edge, you're better off to take it to the iron and iron it drier or iron it dry and then go back, because a wet edge will fold really easy. Okay, now then this one here, this is where it is going to go. So I'm going to fold this back so that I can see the cut edge that I made. And I'm going to match it up.
So you're matching, just like on the other one, you're matching dashed edges to the dashed edges of the piece below it.
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
Now I'm going to turn this over, and again, I can feel the edge. So I know that is on the right. It's right.
She's basically running the stiletto along the ditch, off the edge of where the applique is, and making sure that ditch is on that black line.
That makes sense.
I'm gonna applique these pieces on, and then I'll show you what I mean by the matchup. And let's see here. We don't want this color.
And this is using the applique directions, and I think we kind of give you an idea on how to set your machine. It uses a very, very small zigzag. You get it? She's using my machine, so it's kind of a, now if you use
I'm working under handicap.
If you use
I think we all have a little bit of that problem from time to time.
My handicap's really good today.
Yeah.
We're now working. We have to go with zigzag.
Okay. We're working on my accounting desk, my everything else. So you should have seen me about a half an hour before this. It's like, I'm a good pilot, and we had to move this pile, but it couldn't be combined with this pile, and this pile had to be crisscrossed over that one. So I've got things sitting all over the place here that I have to now put back on the desk so I can work this afternoon later.
Good luck.
It's called a multi-purpose room. You all have those, you know?
Oh, yes.
Is that the quilt in the behind grandma? Is that your pieces that your practice pieces?
That's
the first rounds?
Yeah, that's the one that she's done.
I think I'm all set up here.
I'm not sure how many rows. I think there's 6 rows on that one.
2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I see 6.
We'll hold that up later so everybody can kind of see.
Now, it's not necessary for you to stitch through the seam allowance. So I've got my finger here and my thumb here, and I'm going to mark right about there. That's where I need to start.
So you're
going on top.
You're going to
right. Oh, okay. So that's different from regular stable piecing because
you're sewing on the back side. On the fabric on top to put the applique down.
I don't know if you can get that, but you can see.
We're not going to be able to get that close.
I have set the needle in the fold, just barely in the fold, and this machine will tack on. I think.
How wide of a zigzag are you using?
Pardon?
How wide of a zigzag?
0.5.
Okay.
It just barely.
Baby zigzag.
We got a baby zigzag. But she had to, in marking where to start, she kind of held her finger on the backside, so we kind of knew where the 1/4-inch seam allowance was, and then just kind of made a mark. You don't have to sew out into the seam allowance with this, so there's no sense in waste that thread out there if you don't need to.
And I know my seam allowance is going to be about there, so I'm going to mark that.
So what if I do want to sew into the seam allowance because marking it seems difficult? Can I do that?
Yep, you can do it.
I can do it. Sweet.
Yeah, you can. You don't have to, but you can.
Okay. I'm not sure I'm going to remember that step.
Okay, now I've got this machine set to sew as slow as it possibly can, because I want to see each stitch as it goes. I can stop it from sewing. On the left, it goes through the fold. On its left swing, on its right swing, it should go only through the background. And that way I can stop it if I've missed the fold or if I'm going to hit the background.
And if you're kind of like me and your eyesight you may not want to put the cheaters on, you may want a wider zigzag. If you want to make a design feature out of it, you can do that. If you're using matching thread and it really doesn't matter, you got an idea, didn't you, Jenny?
I can use gold thread and put a decorative stitch on it.
You could really get fancy with this if you wanted to.
You can. You can do all sorts of things with it.
Okay, now I'm excited.
All right, now it's stitched down, sort of. You can see the black or the thread here. I use brown thread. If you want to use a decorative thread, that's fine with me. Now that one's done.
I actually cannot see the stitching on it.
No, because it's the let me see here.
Well, this machine, okay, I can see what happened. The tension was too high on the needle, so we need to back it off.
Okay. So that's what happened.
Is that the background thread that we're seeing?
It pulled the bobbin thread through.
Pulled the bobbin thread up through.
Okay.
Background thread. I know it's called a bobbin thread. What am I even talking about?
Okay, now then.
But it was a good thing, so we saw where you stitched.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and then that's what they make permanent markers for. Like permanent marker, and and nobody knows the difference.
And you color it in. you color. Yeah, you do.
You did that a lot though with embroidery.
With embroidery, you do that a lot.
You use micron pens though, because Sharpie fades after a while. For people who don't know that, Sharpie fades after washing it several times and also will occasionally bleed.
Well, not only that, but nylon thread and all of those threads do not
they
don't take the dye. So you've got to have something that takes the dye.
Yeah.
Okay, we're down to watching paint dry, but we'll get there eventually.
So what was the name of the marker you said to use on?
Micron. It's MICRON.
Oh,
okay, thank you.
Micron pen.
Yes,
micron pen. It's
micron pen. That's what if you need something that you want to essentially just dye some of your stray threads, then that one is the best marker to do it with. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it at like an office supply store. They sell micron pens.
Quilt shops have micron pens in a lot of different colors too. So
but you got to remember, if you're working with a cotton wrapped polyester core thread, you're going to be able to dye the cotton only. If you're working with a completely synthetic thread, you can't dye it. The color has got to be put in when the thread is made, back in the beginning process when they can color it. So if you're going to color it, if you think there's going to be a problem, I would definitely use a cotton wrapped polyester core thread.
Okay.
Yeah. A lot of embroidery threads are not cotton, and they do not take the dyes. So that's if you're looking at the embroidery threads, they don't take that dye. And if you use rayon embroidery thread, be aware that it's a very weak thread. It'll take dye, but it fades really fast. So, okay, now I got that. That's appliqué. Did you fix my tension problem?
Well, I don't know. I think better than it was.
Okay, well,
but we got to remember to put it back where it should be.
Okay, we'll get there.
Okay,
you're not going to see it from a galloping horse anyway. So
right. Okay, this is sewed on. Now this is ready. This is ready. I'm going to pull this. No, I'm going to pull this off. Pull this off, and take that out and pitch it.
That's your applique pattern.
Get rid of the pattern.
You're using that to place it. You're using it to keep your applique the right size until you get this sewn in place. Then you pull your fabric back, take your applique pattern out, and you don't need it anymore.
So now that looks so easy. What happens if/when, because it's going to be when I actually sew the pattern to the unit background?
Oh,
unit foundation?
You mean
Do I just like tug harder on it, or
this has probably got little bitty bites
yeah,
of the zigzag
where you saw the needle
here,
come around there,
and that's all that comes out of it. You're not going to have any problem with that if you leave it in and you sew it down here. When you get ready to pull this out, you pull it out with it because it's right underneath it here.
Oh, okay. So if I
then.
wanted to make sure my curve was really nice and smooth, because I was thinking about just like gluing each little piece down as I went.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to put these two pieces together. So I picked out seam number 1, the circled one right there. And you can trim this with a rotary cutter or you can trim it with scissors. I prefer scissors right now because if that ruler slips, you just might have cut the wrong thing. And piece number 1 or seam number 1.
I'm just amazed at how smooth you're using,
there.
like how smooth you can use those scissors.
1 and 1, 1 and 1 go together. So let's turn it over. And it looks like we are going to match.
So what you're looking at here is you're looking at this. See how these come together here? We're going to sew the seam.
You're almost off screen, by the way.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm trying to watch my hands and the screen at the same time.
Okay, they should come together.
Should come together right there. They should nest.
Okay, what I'm going to do now is the first thing I'm going to do is look, and I'm going to, right in there, I want those to nest right there.
Okay.
Just like bump up against each other.
Right. You need pins.
Well,
so why are you using pins now?
I need a
versus
pin.
Clips.
Because I want to check where the seam line falls. Or 2 or 3.
There, I'll just bring this.
Okay, the next thing I do, I'm going to drive that pin through right there at that black line.
Okay, turn your head. Let me hold this. Hold on.
Okay.
And it didn't. Wait a minute. It didn't.
Okay.
Grandma, I can't see it on the screen. You have to move it over a little bit. There you go.
There.
All right. The pin is going down right through that spot where that black line and you're out, and this seam line right here intersect. See how that's coming through there? And we're putting it through straight, not at an angle of any sort. We're putting it through straight.
Gotcha.
Now we're going to flip it over. And does it come through where we want it?
No.
No. Now we have to take it off and make it come through where we want it. Move the one piece around to get them lined up.
Yes and no. Because we're trying to butt these seams together. Yeah. And and now I'm going to aim this to the right.
Why?
Because
you told me it has to be straight.
We put it through straight to see what we're working with.
And I realized that this one was off, so I needed to head the pin in another direction because when I straighten it up, it's going to pull that together.
Okay.
It's going to push those together. It's going to pull them very tightly together, but it's not going to let them overlap each other.
Okay, that makes sense.
Now the next one is through the point, straight down. Looks like I hit it.
Yep.
Point on that side, point on that side. Good. Now I can take the pin out and put it in at an angle. I know that it's going to match, and I almost pinned myself.
Why are you using pins now for this step instead of your clips?
The pins will hold everything exactly where we want it. This is...
Okay, it's coming through the point there. Coming through the point there. The lines, this one we're done with. It did its job. Now I'm going to put it in here. I'm going in at an angle. The clips do not allow us to see one side and the other like the pin does. The pins keep everything at this point exactly without moving. And this one is it's much more critical now. Yeah. Now when this this pin is on the line on this side. It came out on the line over here. It's on the line here. It's on the line here. This is good. Now,
okay, so you're basically using the pin to follow the line, like a marker that you can see from both sides.
Mm-hmm. Now, let's see here. I have to go back to 1. Oh. And no.
You want to, then it doesn't matter. You need to move it over one more time. No, that doesn't matter because you're not zigzagging. There you go. Now down arrow. One more time. There you go. Now you got it.
I'll learn it eventually. Okay. This one I know is going to be okay. So I'm going to take my pin out.
You're off. Never mind. I'll move the camera.
And I put it in that way just to hold it. Now I'm going to sink my needle. And I've got brown thread. We're going to do it brown thread anyway. All right. Then once my needle's down, now I want to back up to the point, then release, and here we go. And when I get to the pin, I'm going to hold on to it and let the machine pull the block off the pin. And then to the other one. Follow and pull the pin and let the machine pull it off the pin. And I've got to learn the right buttons on this. All right. Think I'll bring my own machine along next time. Oh, well. Now, what do you think?
Oh, it looks so pretty.
That's what it takes to get this to work.
To get this line smooth.
And that's what
around there.
Now, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I pressed the thing open. I don't remember.
I don't remember. I have to look at the directions.
Yeah.
If you can press it open or you can press it one way, and I don't remember what the directions said on that.
What block number is this one?
2L.
Yeah, that was 2L.
Yeah, I will pull it up real quick and take a peek.
Okay.
And if you press it open, this is what you're going to get. Less bulk. But I don't think we're going to press it open. I'm going to press this rotating. And the reason being that I'm going to put another piece onto here, and I want that seam to rotate because we're only going to sew to the center when we add the next piece so that we get that little twirl in the center when you finished your block.
Oh, then it won't be so bulky there.
Right.
Right.
And I sew like a stitch length. I stop a stitch length away from this point right here. I would stop like here. That way it makes the place for the fabric to occupy when the block is finished.
Okay.
And when that is all done, then we're going to go to.
Well, you're going to make four.
You're going to make four squares
like that.
Yeah.
Then put the 4 squares together.
Going by the numbers. Put the 4 squares together, and then eventually this was 1 and 2, so it will go here. And then you'll match up.
Yeah, you put all 4 squares together, and then you lay that in the middle of this piece of foundation as a completed unit.
You'll put all 4 squares. Yeah, all 4 squares go together. And then when that's done and you've pressed your seams rotating in a rotating manner, then the next step, you take out all the foundation that's in it, all of this. Remove all of the foundation that's in here. And that's when you put it on here. That's when you have to match up that seam, the seam that will show up here, match up that seam, and then you'll match up.
It looks like you press the seams to one side instead of open. You press the seams to one side instead of open.
That's why I pressed it to one side instead of open. So then what's in the center,
we'll make it twirl.
We'll make it twirl, and then you can stick a pin through there and stick it into press mat that you can stick pins into, and then you can rotate it, or you can put a little flat pin here and lay this on a light box, or hold it up to a window so you can see that your seam lines, and I can feel this seam line is in the right place almost. There, that's a little better. And that's basically how that block goes together. It is going to take some time. It's not a fast block to do, but if you can get the accuracy there, then that's kind of a feather in your cap, because it's such a small block to begin with.
Once these squares are done and put on here, then you just do 1, 2, 3, and 4, and finish out the block. We just use regular stable piecing directions, but this will give you the squares that make up the 4 quadrants of the center.
Okay.
Does this help?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything that we've gone over that doesn't make sense to somebody? We need to go back over it. No?
No questions.
No question.
Not so far.
Okay.
If you guys do have any questions, you can drop them in the chat. I am keeping my eyes peeled.
Good, because my cheaters don't let me get close enough here.
Oh, I'm real close to my computer. You can probably tell by how big my head is in my camera. I'm real close.
Okay.
Okay, let's stack up these. There's a couple of things that I want to show you.
Oh, you still want me to do this with this?
Yeah.
All right, we're still
sort of.
Do I need the iPad on for it or not?
I'll tell you what I'm gonna do.
All right.
I'm gonna surprise you. And we're probably gonna need that on again.
Okay.
And let's take this off.
Okay.
Okay. This is a nut block that'll be coming up later on down the line. This is the foundation as you'll get it. Everything's there. But on this one, this is part of that. So I've decided to use this for an example.
Which block is this one?
This is in row 6, but what we're showing you is not necessarily specific to row 6 or to whatever the block is. This is just
general information.
General information on the foundation and how it reacts to certain things that might happen.
Okay, let's say you've got this piece here, or a piece of foundation, and you spill your water glass on it, or you dump your coffee on it. Okay.
Well, put him back over here. Bring your paper. Yeah. Very good. That's better. That was a spray bottle with water in it. And this
is pretty wet now.
Can you see that?
Yes.
Yeah, it's definitely see-through. More see-through.
Okay. It is wet. It is saturated. Now.
I want this.
Now. Okay. Also, you're going to see there is no, the ink is still exactly the same way it was.
If you run your finger over it, will that make it bleed at all? Oh, sweet.
Okay, now, can I wad it up?
Not yet.
Oh, we're going to wad out another one. I wanted to wad it up. It was wet.
Yeah.
Look at the water on that page.
I intended for it to be wet. Bring the pad over.
That's why I was going to say, let's get that wet someplace else.
Okay. Let's bring this in. Yeah, turn it on. Poke it.
Okay. I was looking for a switch.
Now the size hasn't changed.
Oh, that's good to know.
It was wet. I ironed it dry. You're still good to go. Okay, now wad that one all up. Make a mess out of it. Don't tear it.
Okay, so you're gonna put. All right, this is what I did.
This is what happens if you sat on it and fell down the chair or whatever you had there.
Or you put it in your bag and you forget it gets crumpled and clear to the bottom.
Yeah.
That's pressing so beautifully.
Now it's got a few wrinkles, but so don't we all?
Okay.
Okay.
Getting it lined up, and it's exactly the same size as the one that was not wrinkled.
Okay.
So we're good.
These are awesome. Like, this is so cool.
Now, I don't recommend that you go and deliberately sew one.
But it does happen periodically.
It does happen periodically. We're not gonna go into the time I spilled my tea on it and I decided I didn't want a tea dyed foundation, so I went and made a new one. But anyway,
okay, let me get this.
Any other questions? That's
Yeah.
row 2. Row 3?
What if I have a question about the applique. What if I want to hand sew the applique because I have more fine motor control, or I want to sit in a chair that's not the one right in front of my sewing machine?
What if you want to do what now?
Hand sew the applique pieces
Okay,
down.
to hand sew it, I would pull the foundation away from the fabric. Because,
in other words, unglue it from the fabric, leave it there, but unglue it.
You've already got that stitching line there that gives you your placement for the applique, and you've got your black line on the foundation. But if you pin that applique to the block or clip it, then you peel back the foundation, the foundation that is under the main piece, the one you're appliquing to. If you peel that down so that you get back to the stitched line that was the applique placement line, then you can hand sew. It's not a good idea to hand stitch through the foundation. In the first place, it's a little too stiff. In the second place, you don't have enough thread in there to keep from breaking it or pulling things loose. So if you want to do hand applique, I would pull the foundation away from the base or the piece that you are appliquing to, then do your applique, and then you can press that foundation back into place.
What if I just crumple the foundation up a whole bunch so it's not stiff anymore?
What if you what?
Crumpled it up so it's not stiff.
Yeah, you can do that, but you'll have to press it back out again.
Yeah,
because in some of the blocks, the applique is done first. In this case, in this block, the applique is done first. In a lot of other blocks, it's done last. Sometimes it's done in the middle, depending on what block it is. So you kind of have to take all of that into account.
Okay, so if it's done last, then I need to be crumpling foundation and ironing it back out first.
Yeah, soften it. Yeah,
like in the ones that have like the dots and things on them that are sewn on separately. Then that one I would crumple the base foundation first and then iron it back out.
Yeah, you can do that. You can get it a little softer, but I still wouldn't stitch through it with a needle and thread. With sewing machine works fine because you're working with a lock stitch and 2 threads, so that'll work okay. If you're doing it by hand, you only have a needle and 1 thread, and you're probably doing a fell stitch, which is, it's good, but for the kind of treatment this is going to get, it's not very sturdy.
So I could do like a hand back stitch, and would that work better?
Possibly. I haven't tried it, so I really couldn't say. I've done the hand applique, so I know how it works.
The back stitch would give more thread in your
yeah, it would put twice as much thread in there.
Right. It would put more thread in there.
Has anybody else done hand applique using a back stitch of any sort, or has found a way that has any help for her question?
I have not.
Okay. Anybody else? No. Well, you get
I have done a lot of embroidery and a lot of back stitching and embroidery, and that's a very sturdy stitch.
I would try it and then see what happens and then let us know.
Okay, cool.
Good idea.
Yeah, do that and then let us know. Okay. Any other questions or anything anybody wants to see on this?
Nope.
This thing, this time?
Well, I either covered it real well or I confused the heck out of you. So
No, it was
I
helpful
don't know
seeing
which it
the
is now.
process.
Pardon, Cindy?
It was helpful seeing the process.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. And a lot of times when I get this put up on the YouTube and stuff, then you go back and you look at it and rewind, and it works to go back and see things a second time.
True.
So, or third or fourth. Now, we've got the quilt that Mom's been working on. We got it hanging back here. And I'm just gonna, Mom, you wanna kind of scoot yourself out a little bit here? You're gonna run off to the
That's all right.
I got a piece of plywood here that my chair's on, and she just ran off the plywood. But anyway, this is
row 1.
Uh-huh.
Row 2. And let's bring it over here and we can see what we worked on.
okay. We worked on
That one
This
right
one.
there.
this one right here.
Oh,
That reminds me.
Okay.
If you're getting anxious to put your rows together or your blocks together into a row, it goes A, B, C, and so on down to M.
Mm-hmm.
Lay those blocks down face up, the fabric on the top, and then lay block B on top of block A and sew the seam and open it out and block 3. If you lay them out face up, A, B, C, when you get done, your A is going to be on the opposite end of where it should be when you finish your quilt.
I wouldn't have thought of that.
I'll have to think about that one.
Ask me how I know.
Okay. But anyway, I'll stand back here.
Yeah.
But this is the first 6 rows.
Beautiful.
Just in the fabrics that she had in her stash.
And there are duplicates in there.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have enough fabrics to make them all different.
Right, not of that kind. So this is the first 6 rows.
Very nice.
So
next time we meet, I'll have more.
But one thing that I did want to let you all know, and I didn't realize this until Mom and I started going through this past time, because we were doing so many rows so fast, just because of all the snafu things that have happened over the last couple of months. And I wondered why I was getting burnt out. Or how about if I sit down there so I'm not talking?
You really want to? Yeah, I guess I'll let you. I'm my cap to my glue, so that's all right. There you go. It's all yours. Don't step on my glue cap. I just found it.
Sorry, you have to get it later.
Yeah, I will.
When we were putting things together, we figured out, and it shocked me, but we figured out that to get 1 row ready to ship out to you guys, it takes both Mom and I, each one individually, 30 hours.
Oh my.
Just to get 1 row ready.
Each of you? So 60 hours total?
Each of us. Because Grandma has to repiece all the blocks in the fabric that is the fabric that you're getting.
Mm-hmm.
And something happened. So she repieces everything, double checks to make sure that everything is exactly the way she wants it. It goes together. She writes an abbreviated list of directions. And I'm doing fleshing them out to make them make everything that you see from 1 row to the next that repeats, that they use the same words, the same sentences, so everything works. We don't confuse you.
Mm-hmm.
I do all the math as far as telling you what to cut and how to cut it. I do all the fabric cutting, all that has to be figured out ahead of time. So she gets the same size piece of fabric that you guys get. And if she can't do it, then I've made a math mistake somewhere and we got to go back to the drawing board. So then all that has to be put in. Jenny has set up templates for me to use and showed me how to use the templates to create the patterns. And then everything has to be printed. And I've got FedEx is really a very wonderful person. They really know me by name. They deliver an awful lot of stuff to me. But everything that has to come in at creating the foundation, creating it, because we create it in individual pieces. Then it all has to be brought together in the long sheets that you get. And everything has to be tested so that it's the right size. And then it all has to be collated, all the binders. I mean, I've got boxes sitting back here behind things that you can't see, that I can't walk because I've got stuff waiting for the next row and the next one here. And but it takes that much time. It takes me probably about 3 hours just to get all the shipping labels on everything so that we know they're going exactly where they need to be. I was surprised.
Yeah.
It takes that much time. But when we were doing one row every 2 weeks, I told Jenny, I said, this is going to kill me.
Yeah. She was like, I'm exhausted. Do I have to do this? And I'm like, yes, Mom, you do. We promise people.
So I finally figured out why. And when I got to that, I was like, oh my gosh. So, but it takes to get things to you in the format that we want, to make them work, to make it as right as we can do it. And there's going to be mistakes here and there because we're human.
Right.
But this is what we go through to get these rows to you. So, and I work a 40-hour-a-week job that usually ends up being 50 or 55 hours because I'm an accountant and tax preparer. So this is on top of all of that. So it's like my husband says, honey, are you coming the other end of the house? You'll come down, check at me at 9 o'clock. And if I'm bleary-eyed, I usually go to bed. If I'm not, I might be here till midnight. But this is what it takes for all of us. And Jenny does a lot of the advertising. She set up the templates for me to use so that I can pull all this stuff together. But this is what it takes to get things ready for you.
Reminds me.
What?
Fun fact for you guys. We have an article that's being published in the March 2023 issue of AQS magazine.
Very nice.
I'm so excited. I just sent it off to them. I'm waiting on the proof, but we get early access to the front cover of the magazine so we can do some promoting. So I will be posting that in the Facebook group.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yes. Oh, I'm so pumped about it.
Yeah.
She asked me for a picture of me since I wrote the article.
So yeah, Jenny's the advertising person, and Grandma does all the sewing and all of that, pretty well all of that, and I kind of make everything else work together and pull all the printing together and all of the binders and all the packaging and make sure all the orders are done. And so that's what we do well. So if you don't see me around a lot, it's because I'm back here doing something to get something ready for you guys. But that's I was surprised when I actually added up the hours, but I thought that was I needed to share that with you guys. It was just no wonder I was tired.
Yes.
We looked at each other dumbfounded the other night when she told me that.
So, but
well,
anyway,
thank you for doing it.
Well, we're enjoying it. We're having a good time. I just kind of want to slow down just a little bit.
Yeah, go back to once a month.
Once a month. That's right. We're back to once a month now. So this next box is going to go out here probably because of the holiday tomorrow. I'm going to take the day off and go do something I want to do.
Exactly.
It probably will ship out on Monday morning is what my plan is right now.
Cool.
So anyway, is there any other questions, or are there any other questions? Sorry, my grammar sometimes is not proper. Are there any other questions that we need to answer here, or are we call it for right now and just kind of email me with any questions or anything that you want to see? And we've got another one scheduled for
the 19th.
The 19th, I'm told.
Okay.
So we'll be Jenny told me too that I was supposed to give her Zoom links so that she can put those up on Facebook, so that we probably will do that rather than an email to everybody, I'm guessing. Is that what we're supposed to be doing, Jenny?
You can do however you want to do it, Mom. If you want to send out an email, I know not everybody is active on the Facebook group. Like they're there and they're kind of
I can do it
lurking around the corner every once in a while, but probably both ways would be good, just to as a reminder. So I'll make sure that we get those sent out as a reminder a few days ahead of time. And then you guys will have access to the link. You can go to it through Facebook, through the Facebook events, or Mom will send out the email.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, because I don't have Facebook, so.
Okay. Well, then we'll definitely keep the email going. That helps
Okay.
me know which way is best and what we need to do. And if we need to, that's the way it has to be. That's not a problem with me at all. I just don't want to leave somebody out.
Okay.
So, okay. Well, in that case, then I think if there's nothing else, I think we're going to say goodbye for the day. I heard my granddaughter hollering down at the other end, and I think my husband come down here and says, are you done yet? We shouldn't have a dirty diaper because we've already been through that today.
Oh, good. Okay.
So, yeah, she's just kind of cranky.
But she's a baby, so it's gonna happen.
She's about 7 months old, so.
Aw.
Yeah.
She has the cutest little chubby cheeks. Oh my gosh. Oh, I'm gonna post a picture in the group because I have a recent one. She's adorable.
Yeah. So anyway, well, I think I'm gonna get off here and let you all go back to your sewing and just give me a holler if there's anything we can do.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.